What's up, guys? Adapark here, and a while back we started a small series where I took a post on the Marine Corps, the USMC subreddit, where a gentleman asked a very simple question. He said, guys, tell me about the best and worst leader that you have had the pleasure or displeasure of serving under. Tell me about them, no names specifically, but I want to know about them. And I thought it was really interesting to get a boots on the ground, the equivalent would be maybe the Raiders perspective, if we're equating it to World of Warcraft terms, of the guys that are on the ground and the experiences they have with leadership. And while there is a lot of jargon in these posts, I want to read a few more to you guys, and I want to elaborate on the good and bad qualities of them. Because I think that while it's great to talk about what you as a leader are or are not doing correctly, it's also good to get some perspective of how it affects the people that serve under you, or that play for you, or that raid for you, etc. So what we're going to do is I will read word for word the entries in here. We're going to do 4 of them just because one of them is kind of short. We're going to do 4, and there is some military jargon. I'll break it down for you guys. I'll read it out word for word, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. And you guys in the comment section below, tell me if you've experienced a raid leader, a guild leader, an officer, a class leader, someone like one of these guys. So the first one here, Best was a major I worked for. He cared about everyone's welfare and knew at the end of the day it was just a job. So here we have a major who's probably been in the Marine Corps. If I had to throw out a number, let's say 12 to 15 years. So, you're figuring someone that's, in their mid to late 30s, who cared about everyone's welfare. He ensured that while not letting people slack, but if you had a problem, something was going wrong at home, something was wrong with your wife, something was wrong with your vehicle, that he was able to provide resources to help you out. Meaning that, if you needed to talk to somebody, if somebody needed to talk to you, if you needed help, if you needed something, that he would ensure that your welfare was taken care of so that you could get the job done. And again, at the end of the day, it's just a job. Meaning that at the end of the day, no matter how hard I push my raiders, at the end of the day, it's a game. And that's something that is super important for leaders to remember, is it's just a job. Or in this case, it's just a game. That, yeah, we're here to kill bosses. We're here to, to push that rank, to push those logs, to push that percentile, to make sure that we're doing the very best. And, my leadership, me and my officer, we're pushing the raiders to, interrupt faster and put out more DPS and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it is a game. And that's something that's important to remember. And then he goes on to say, the worst was me as a boot lieutenant, ha ha ha. But in all seriousness, worst was a douchebag captain at one of my schools. He was big on favoritism and tried so hard to look cool. So this is one that I've talked about before, favoritism. That is where you will essentially hook up your buddies. If you have a friend that is raiding with you and you are in charge of loot, they happen to get more loot than they really deserve. They get the pick of loot. These are things that cannot happen. A great example, and I'm going to pick on these guys because I know they're going to be good sports about it, because I have faith in them. But I have a couple in my guild. 2 guys that are in my guild. One of them is in a leadership position. The other one is what I describe as an everyday raider. Logs on, he does a great job. He does everything that he needs to do. But when it comes time to raid, that guy in the leadership position needs to ensure, and he does a great job of this, of not letting, his significant other get by on shit. So if something happens and, there is a premature death, if there's low DPS, if he logs in late, it doesn't matter that they're married. It doesn't matter. He has, this officer has to call him out. No matter what, he has to call him out. He has to do this. Because if he doesn't, then people are going to start to talk. Whether they, do it consciously and, they huddle around and, last night, I got bitched at because I was standing in fire, but this guy didn't. You know why, right? Even if they don't do that, even if it's subconsciously and they're thinking it, why is he calling my name out, for standing in fire when that guy's doing it too? Oh, yeah, now I know why. And you guys, there's no way you have not seen this in your lifetime. But that will erode your leadership so quickly, because regardless of whether it is purposeful or not, if you let favoritism happen, it will erode your leadership and people will talk about it behind your back, or they will subconsciously think about it. And then they go, you know what? Fuck you. You're not going to call him out. I'm not going to worry about it. And it's an uphill battle and you're going to lose. So the second entry we have here was Worst was a Mustang captain who would constantly try and task our Marines with work which had nothing to do with us because he couldn't do it himself. How many Marines do we have in Afghanistan? I don't know. I'm not fucking manpower. The worst part is he'd wait until our bosses who sat outside the only door to the vault left their desk to come around. Eventually, he had his access to the vault cut, but would still try and corner Lance Corporals in the hall. So, I mentioned it in the last video, if I remember correctly, but a Mustang is an enlisted personnel, someone that goes to that boot camp enlists. He's a private first class, generally around sergeant, staff sergeant rank. They decide that they want to become no longer an enlisted personnel. They want to get their officer's commission. And they go to college, or they may have completed college already. They go through OCS, et cetera, et cetera. They get promoted to second lieutenant. It happens, and generally enlisted personnel truly respect that transition. You've seen what I've gone through. Now you're in charge of me. You should know the bullshit. You should know what I need. And in this case, you have a guy that did just that. He became a captain, and he did not understand his job, and he would try to get other people to do it. And then when his access to that area in trying to get people to do his job was cut, he would still do it. He would just wait further back and corner guys when he could and get them to do his work. So I've said it before, and a lot of these are going to be the same entry essentially, but you as a leader are there to set the example of what to do. So that means that you cannot bitch at your raiders for having low DPS if you are playing a DPS character that has low DPS. Now, there are obviously some extenuating circumstances. You switch characters mid-expansion, or, something crazy happens. Okay, they get it. But if you are on par gear-wise, level-wise, whatever the case might be, and you're not able to do your job, you should not be in a leadership position, because you are supposed to be the one that sets the example. And then when you get others to do your jobs for you, i.e. you are a melee character, but you're unwilling to join the interrupt rotation, or you are unwilling to jump on trash when it comes out, or ads when they come out, rather. If you're unwilling to do that, you shouldn't be in a leadership position. Your job is to set that example of what everybody should be doing. And then the best, he says, is a colonel who would come out for every weekly headquarters battalion PT session and do everything we did, even though it meant he had to forego a shower to make it to his briefing with a 3-star general, maybe a tie with our deputy, a 1-star general, who, when we were on night shift for duty, would try and do PX runs for us. So again, I know there's a little bit of jargon, but let's look at this. So you have a colonel who, I'm trying to throw generic ages out there, let's say 40 plus. Most definitely 40 plus, who is doing, the same physical fitness regimen as 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds. And even me, a 31-year-old, I feel, the aches and pains of just general everyday life and the wear and tear of 2 years of being in Iraq. So for a guy that's 10 years older than me to stand up to 18-year-olds and do the same thing that they're doing, that shows the dedication to, again, setting the example. I'm sure he's not as fast as them or as agile as them. But you know what? He's out there doing everything that they're doing to the best of his ability. Regardless of if that means he has to forego taking a shower before meeting a fucking 3-star general. And then the second one he said here was the deputy who, when the guys were on night shift for duty, would do PX runs. Meaning that when they were on barracks duty, making sure that nobody did anything stupid, that everything was secure, that, people were safe, that no stupid stuff was happening. A colonel would come up, or rather a 1-star general would come up and bring snacks. He would go to the convenience store and bring snacks to, 18-year-old lance corporals, 19-year-old corporals, etc. That's looking out for troop welfare, making sure that, I know these guys are stuck on duty and they're hating it and they're pissed off and they could be playing video games or going out into town and, hooking up with whatever and doing whatever, or just friggin' sleeping, but instead they have to work an extra long shift. Let me hook them up a little bit with some free snacks. The third one here, the last CO at my base I was at. We had a Marine on restriction doing bitch work around the base, and the CO would join him in doing the work with him as well. Painting a fence, picking up garbage, basic crap. It spoke leagues about his character, and I respected the hell out of the guy. So this one's an interesting one, because you have a Marine, it sounds like it, and more than likely, a young guy, probably 18, 20 years old, that did something stupid. Not stupid enough to get him in super trouble, but enough that he is, for a certain amount of time, depending on whatever the commander says, cannot go out into town. He has to check in. He can't go out with his buddies. And basically, he's grounded. Is the children's equivalent of it. He is grounded. But you have a commander who is joining in with that, picking up trash with this guy, helping him paint, doing what this guy refers to as bitch work. This one's interesting for 2 reasons. One, it shows you the guy that's in trouble. This dummy that did something stupid. No one's above picking up trash. No one's above cleaning up. No one's above, painting a fence or getting shit done. No one's above that. Regardless of whether you are the brand new private that's been in the Marine Corps for 6 months or you are the 4-star general. It doesn't matter if you are the brand new eval that just started last night or you are the guild master. Do you have an interrupt ability? Do you have a silence ability? Can you call stuff out? Can you do something that the raid needs? Can you do it? If you can, doesn't matter who you are. Do it. Join in. Help. It also gives both parties, the commander and the idiot that did something wrong, the ability to have a one-on-one session. And I think this is something that's really important that sometimes people lose focus when you're in a high-ranking leadership position. It's really easy to see yourself as above those under you. And no, you're not, as a leader, above the people that are serving you or the people that you're put in charge of, or in the case of World of Warcraft, that allow you to take charge over them. And that's a very key distinction between the military or general life and this game. Is there's an unspoken agreement. You are letting your guild leader, your officers, tell you what to do. We've talked about this before, but it gives you the ability to have that one-on-one time where you can learn about each other, and you as the leader can impart hopefully some wisdom onto this guy and say, look, don't do this shit again. And you as the guy that did something stupid can go, okay, you know what? He's helping me do this. I get it. I want to do it. I want to be better for this guy. And that's something that can very easily transition into World of Warcraft, where you can run a 5-man dungeon with the new evals. You can run a Mythic Plus. You can sit in general chat, for Ventrilo or Skype or TeamSpeak or, in our case, Discord. Just talk to them. Talk to them in guild chat, You're not above that. And that's something that I've seen within some of the leaders that I've, had in the guild, and I've seen And it's something that's very easy to slip into. So the last one here, I had a lieutenant colonel as my CO, commanding officer. He did not do the group punishment thing. If someone messed up, they alone were held accountable. As a result, we all acted like adults and loved him as a leader. So one of the big things in the military is this idea, and you guys will see it, I'm sure, in the civilian sector, at a normal 9-to-5 job, is because one person screws up, in the civilian world, oh, there's a new policy. We can't do this because Jim fucked it up last week. Or, because one person screwed something up, now nobody in the platoon gets to leave and go off base. Why? I didn't do anything wrong. And he's saying that this lieutenant colonel did not believe in that. He didn't do it. If you screwed up, you and you alone were held accountable for that. Now, there are certain situations and circumstances, I was trying to merge those two words together, where it's okay to do group punishment. But it's not and should not be the first response to getting a point across. Teaching someone something. That should not be your first one. And as a result of not doing this, of not being that the easy fallback to go to, everybody acted like adults. And you respected him because if Jim fucked up, Jim's getting screwed, not me. My time, my, raid spot, my eardrums are not getting bitched out because Jim screwed up. And then, now as far as the worst officer I've ever had was in Okinawa, and he wrote it like that. He was some dude who got angry all the time, in bold, all the time, for meaningless reasons. Didn't matter if you were a junior Marine, NCO, staff NCO officer, he'd chew them out in front of everyone. Super unprofessional and crazy angry. It was as if the Corps existed just for his sake. You could honestly sense a little bit of detachment from reality from him. So I'm not going to talk about his mental state, this gentleman. However, I do want to talk about angry all the time. And I know I've talked about this. Let's say, and we're going to pick on Jim. Jim fucks up. And you lay into Jim. Jim's not switching to ads, and he hasn't switched to ads all night. And the group's been wiping because of it. You pull Jim aside, and you say, Jim, here's the deal. You need to switch to ads. There's no excuses. I don't care, what you're doing, what you're casting, how long your cast is. I don't care about your setup. You switch to ads just like everybody else. And it's fine to be pissed off. It's fine to be angry to a certain point. But once you talk to Jim and you relay, this disappointment, this frustration, this anger, you're fucking up, and Jim, you need to fix it, you are no longer angry with Jim. You drop it. You don't hold that grudge. Because if you continue to hold that grudge, it's only going to get worse, and it's only going to piss people off. And you guys have seen it, where somebody will fuck up, you call them out, and you stay pissed off, and you harp on them, you harp on them, you harp on them. And eventually, that volcano on one end or the other is going to blow, whether it's the raid leader or it's the raider. Someone's going to get pissed off enough to, shit's going to get real. And not good, because there's a big fallout and people get pissed off and annoyed, and now you're wasting everybody else's time because you're blowing up or he's blowing up and things are said and stupid things happen. Not good. Didn't matter if you were junior Marine, blah, blah, blah. He chewed them out in front of everyone. And I haven't specifically talked about this yet, but this is something that you do not do. You do not chew people out in front of everyone. At least not as an initial, as a first time thing. And what I mean by that is, if you are in the raid and, Jim's not switching to ads, and you say, I need you guys to switch to ads. Okay. If something continues to not happen, then you start calling people out. But it's not one of those where the initial, you look at the logs, the first wipe in the night, and you look and you see that, so-and-so did something wrong. They didn't switch to ads in this grand example. you don't immediately call them out. You shoot them a whisper. You pull them into a different channel. You look, you're not switching to ads. I don't know the reason why. I really don't care. Everybody else is switching to ads. You need to do it too. The thing is, embarrassment is a very tricky situation. It's a very touchy subject because you as a player don't want to be embarrassed in front of 19 other people. You know, that Mythic group, you don't want to be embarrassed in front of 19, or I guess rather 18 other people as your guild leader, your raid leader is bitching at you. But if it continues, that public shame is warranted. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, but you never do that as an initial response, is to call people out in front of everybody else the first time they screw up. And then this guy went on to say that they're super unprofessional, crazy angry. You could honestly sense a little bit of detachment from reality. Again, we're not going to talk about his mental state, but it's important to understand when to be angry, when not to be angry, when to call people out, and how to call them out. So with all that being said, guys, hopefully you liked the video that we have today. If you did, give this video a like. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike button. Both of those things are totally cool with me. If you didn't like it, let me know what you didn't like in the comment section below. Or if you've experienced a leader or been a leader from one of these examples. And until next time, guys, I'll see you.